And you'll see at the top,
All right. Looks like we are live. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Stephanie Victoria coming to you with the second episode of Muses, where myself and my beautiful divine counterparts come to you live every single week to talk about all things spiritual, to really help with the transformation of the world at this time. We come together from a collective background, very different experiences, very different specialities, all to help the planet ascend at this time. I'd like to introduce you to these beautiful women with me today. My co-hosts will swing around the table here. Katie Steinle is a human design specialist, Reiki master, Qigong instructor, and owner of Discover Your Design. This maps out your unique blueprint for living life to your fullest potential. Katie's divine mission is to connect the planet with this valuable, incredible information, completely weaving together these specialities of hers and bringing peace, love, and harmony to every path she crosses. Chris Alicia, as we keep swinging around, there we go, Chris waving, is the founder of Ascended Warrior, which provides spiritual and mindful mentorship to veterans, first responders, and other survivors of trauma. Chris's divine mission is to help these warriors find themselves, conquer their demons, and embrace their warrior selves. Kat Bender is the owner of Kat Bender Healing Communication. She facilitates communication with animals, angels, guides, ascended masters, and also loved ones who've crossed over. And this is what she does for her clients. Her mission is to improve connectivity and understanding between humans and the rest of the natural world. She works with people and their animal family members to help them become more skilled with their own intuitive skills, to discover their soul's purpose and more fully embody their highest potential. I'd like to say hi to all of you again, Stephanie Victoria. I am the founder of Kaliana Therapeutics, where we focus on transformational healing at a DNA level. My work combines high vibe cellular technologies and metaphysical practices. And my expertise is truly in detox and regenerative cell care with alchemy, custom fitting personal plans for transformation and alignment. And all of this is done within the space of the Akashic Records for everyone from a psychic mom to a coach or a healer. I like to welcome all of you again. Thank you, beautiful ladies, for being all together today. And thank you guys for tuning in to hear what we have to say this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are. We're tackling a big one today. Last episode, we all got together and spoke a bit about our own spiritual awakening, what that looks like, and the messy of it, and the personal, and the fun, and the funny, and all things in between, so uniquely individual as it is for each person. And after the show, we even got to talking and said, you know what, hey, we've looked at the microcosm, right? The individual awakening and what that really kind of looks like. And it led us right into immediately this conversation about what's going on in the world, what's taking place on our planet, what's happening on Earth, on planet Earth, and what that means to us, how it relates to what's going on an individual level. So while I'm taking a minute to share the show out, I want to ask each of you to just quickly share what that does mean to you, what this looks like, and how we can really begin to understand what's happening on a global level, how we can introduce that concept to people to allow them to understand what's going on a global level by really taking a look at our own journeys. How does that equate for you?
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that beautiful, beautiful intro. For me, because I've been in the military and I still work with the military, I stay very current on the events of the day as much as I can and still keep my sanity. You know, there's definitely a level of I have to turn off the news. But the more I see the chaos in the world, the more I feel the undercurrents of spirit really putting pieces of the puzzle in a certain position. And how that puzzle is going to shake out, what that's going to look like at the end of the day, I don't know. But I see all the chaos as a very intentional part of our growth period. It's positioning us where we need to be to really awaken, and it's forcing people to wake up, or giving them the opportunity to wake up in bigger numbers than I've ever seen before. So it's been phenomenal to witness this. And it also gives you perspective, and it allows you not to get sucked into the mire, even when you do still, work for the government. So that's been huge for me.
Yeah, you're speaking right from that context.
Yeah, definitely puts it all into perspective. The political situation, not just here in the US, but across the world, all the contention that you're seeing is all very intentional. It's bringing attention to very important, broken parts of our world that we've been too apathetic to even fix. And now we don't have a choice, right? It's so in our face. And then the corona starts and everybody's forced to stay home and not work, and our priorities shifted. The Black Lives Matter movement, all these things are so impossible to ignore.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Yeah, I always think that it's no accident that the generation they call the millennials came in with all of the technology, the internet, the different ways of connectivity than previous generations had, that keep them a little bit more separate. I think that there's a lot of advantage in that. And one of the biggest advantages, as I see it, is one of the biggest movements, directional movements, is away from what we had and into something entirely new. That separation allows people the space to create in a different way. It allows the stepping back, I guess, and letting go a little bit of the social norms that previous generations sort of were really kind of hamstringed by to some degree. There were certain things that were acceptable and other things that were not acceptable. And not saying that nobody ever stepped outside those bounds. Certainly they did. But it's a much looser structure today that allows people to create new possibility in all directions all the time. And so in a way, I look at that as that separation that, I'm going to put my dog down here for a minute. That separation that is creating a different kind of connectivity, a different possibility, a different opportunity, bringing new things into the plane.
And it's just like kind of like you said, people are more separate, yet like with the technology advances, even our show's a good example. You can reach such a greater number, with technology. So it's kind of like the opposite ends of the spectrum, it creates that separation, which is healthy in a way to some extent, because we all need time to reflect and look back and see what we've done, and then give ourselves space and time to set intentions for the future. And that does take quiet time. And I think before we had a lot of the social media, it was all done, just in personal one-on-one or group connections. So you're right. It's totally, we've seen it in our generation shift. I think I was telling somebody the other day, it's interesting, like, I don't know, I think we're all close in age, but our generation is probably the last generation that saw life completely before computers, and now has followed it through today. Like you said, the millennials are coming in, and I have friends that their kids are 2 and they're showing me how to do stuff on Instagram. It's crazy. So yeah, it's a different world. But I personally have noticed it's interesting, just because I've been on this spiritual awakening path, like I mentioned last week, for years now. And with the whole, for instance, Corona, with that coming full circle, I think it's really put directly in front of everybody the fragility of life and the fact that things can change in an instant, and we can't necessarily rely on, the government or, community or whatever. We have to start looking inward and start doing the self-reflection and doing the work, and getting connected. And then as we connect within ourselves, then we can step out on these platforms and connect in a global way, right? And drive movement and change. So yeah, I guess it's just shifting with the times.
Mm.
How about you, Stephanie?
I'm sitting here having like so many thoughts come through and agreeing with all three of you. And I'm also at the same time feeling this like call to, well, do what I normally do, and that's try to have the hardest conversation that I can possibly have in any given moment in order to bring as much clarity as possible, which is tough sometimes. So I'm like biting my tongue, but also not, because I see very clearly that direct connection between what we experience on a personal level and the big and the small of it, and the way that it's reflected globally, like the little things that we work through and the really big, deep, dark, ugly things that we work through, right? And I see that happening globally as well. The little things on the surface, rearranging our schedules, living a different lifestyle, those relatively to me could come off as being the smaller issues. And then you get into the big and ugly of it, the really big and ugly of it, the manipulation of humanity in general. And like, for instance, when Chris, I'm gonna dive right in. When Chris mentioned Black Lives Matter, I'm immediately trying to reconcile in my own head, how do we as human beings heal that trauma, that pain, that hurt in the human psyche that surrounds that movement, and also acknowledge that that movement is, if we know our history, if we're digging deep enough, that movement is created by the same people that created the KKK. And so on one hand, I'm like, oh, well, you know, there's part of you that goes, that's not a real movement, but yes, it is, because it's packed with so much pain and hurt and trauma. It's very real. Are we looking at it the right way? Are we coming at it from the right angle? Allowing ourselves to be manipulated back, like all the way back into that rabbit hole? And how do we reconcile it? How do we really infuse that awakening into those really hard topics, into those topics that are raw, that are real, that bust people's hearts open, and still be able to step back from it and go, okay, the system has got its hand in this, and it doesn't mean that it's not something we shouldn't deal with, but maybe there's a different way to do it.
Well said.
Yeah. This is a conversation I've been having with a lot of people, specifically about that issue, and not, I guess, not just Black Lives Matter, but also Trump and some of the others. There's so much emotional attachment to the situations that we're dealing with, to the point where the arguments are coming from such a raw place that it's almost impossible to find a solution. Like if you're arguing from that emotional place, there's no win. There's no way to fix that. So how do we reframe that conversation?
Well, and it's not even an argument. It's not even a conversation. It's just a vomiting emotion. I mean, it really is. And how do you I mean, it's a great question. How do you reframe that? How do you bring into being the possibility of a conversation, of something that has the ability to move the needle?
It's amazing how polarized we've become, that we can't even have conversations. You think a conversation about an issue that's hurting so many people would be on the tip of everybody's tongues, but it's the very opposite. We're scared to talk about it. We're scared to offend each other, because quite frankly, we know that we will offend because there's so much emotional attachment to it. But we need to have these conversations. It's the only way to get beyond that emotion to, okay, how do we fix this? Because there are ways to improve each situation that we have problems with.
It's true.
Immediately my brain goes right back to education, like just beat it, you know. And then what does that look like? That's the next question.
Well, education for sure. And the other side, the flip side of that is so many people are afraid to have the conversation, right? But let's talk about why. Why are people so afraid to have the conversation? And in my experience, it's because when we do launch into that conversation, when we decide to carefully try to have an open and honest conversation with somebody, I feel like so often there's almost a prescribed response. It's there isn't individual thought and people talking about their own experiences and coming from their own place. It's almost like there's become there become acceptable lines, words, very much like the media is all controlled, right? Every outlet is saying exactly the same thing, depending on what the belief system is, what their goal is, and that has trickled down into the conversations that we have. I hear people when I have these conversations. I hear people saying the same thing to me, over and over and over. Totally different people, totally different belief systems. Sometimes saying exactly the same things to me. And I'm kind of floored that there isn't a greater awareness of that.
Of individual thought. And then too, like with social media, I've noticed that when people can hide behind, the platform and not have to have the real conversations, they can almost use that as an outlet, like you said, for their emotional release. And, I have people I know that enjoy going on and, putting comments in just to create a rise, and so it becomes an agenda, like a personal agenda, right? That totally sidetracks the real issue at hand,
I think back to when we were all in Shasta, and Robin McClendon, who I love, said, in order for this conversation, some version, she didn't say this big beginning part, but in order for the conversation to exist in a way that isn't healthy, basically, there has to be a victim and a victimizer. And as long as you're having conversations about victims, you're making somebody a victimizer, and vice versa. And I think the awareness of that is, obviously there are some circumstances where there's a victim and a victimizer. I'm not suggesting that there isn't that ever, or that it shouldn't be acknowledged when it is, but not every conversation should include, typecasting, because that makes everybody uncomfortable too. Who wants to be told they're a victimizer when they haven't victimized anybody?
Well, and I think you're speaking really clearly to the energy that you call in around that topic too.
Yeah.
Just in general, if you're talking about a situation or a context with a personal, or you're talking global.
Yeah.
And the way that you articulate that and the way that you focus on that subject is calling a certain energy into existence.
It is, absolutely. And I said, who wants to be, told they're victimized when they haven't victimized anybody? Who wants to be told they're a victim? Also, I certainly don't.
Well, you can walk that dog back just one step further. Being a victim it's a choice to claim that label. It is a choice to say the world is hurting me. I have no control over the situation. It really is, because it's how you perceive the world around you that controls that. Robin went on in that same conversation to say she didn't want that label of victim. That's not a label she's willing to take. And I completely agree. And I feel the same way about the experiences in my life. I've been through stuff. I am in no way, shape, or form a victim. And if I've hurt people, I'm not a victimizer. I've made mistakes. I've had opportunities for growth. It's really it's the way we're looking at it. It's like choosing that label of victim is almost saying you need somebody to blame for pain, when that's not the cause of the pain. In fact, it has nothing to do with the pain. It's a comfort level. Like, I just need someone to finger because I'm in pain.
And talk about walking the dog back. Let's go way back for a minute. And talk about the fact that when we come here, we all choose who we're coming here with, how we're coming here, what we look like, what our circumstances are, every single piece and part of that. We design ourselves fully to come in here and not only participate in the experiment, for everybody's benefit, but also have our own designed experience in the experiment for our own soul growth and benefit. And so, I mean, it isn't possible to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally not possible.
It's a choice. It's a free will.
It's a well-designed choice, and through difficulty. And I'm not saying that. Well, I'm just going to say through difficulty, all lessons occur. All the good things that happen on this plane, that's how they come to be. It isn't.
Did you see my post this morning?
I didn't. What did you post?
It was a meme and it said obstacles. It was something about obstacles being the path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A gift along your path
Yeah.
that you shouldn't ignore, and you shouldn't call them something else.
It's your neon light that goes this way.
Yeah.
One of my, I love Rumi. He's a poet, and I think there was one quote that he said, and it's like, when you're broken open, like your heart is broken open, the crack is where the light can come through, right? And so to your point, yeah, I mean, and our greatest moments and our greatest joy, those are really not what we ultimately remember or ultimately like expand from. It's from the brokenness. Yeah, you're right. And so that is where the change starts, if you choose to take action. I guess maybe that's the person that maybe is a victim, if they make a choice to take action from that is what starts that process, to change, to create a movement in the other direction. One interesting thing, though, I was talking to somebody recently, and they were mentioning that a lot of the children that are being born, up to, probably 10, relatively recent, the last decade. What's beautiful is they were saying that they're seeing the kids come in with so much more openness and so much less, just prejudice, and because things have shifted and evolved, and we are in America, such a melting pot and so diverse. It's beautiful to see that these kids are not tolerating. They were saying that they are already starting to point out when there is, something that they see that where people are being excluded, or, something that's not inclusive. And I sat and I thought about it. And then I watched a couple kids that I know, and I thought, wow, that is very, very true, compared to maybe like our generations and the epigenetics of what, you just are raised with, the conditioning. So I thought that was kind of a positive, maybe point for the future.
Absolutely. And I'm like, as you're saying that, it's kind of coming in for me that it's not even, I feel like you said it and I need to reframe how I heard it. It's like they're coming in and they're not as programmable.
Mm. Yeah.
I've heard the same stuff that the crystal children, or whatever they're calling this newer generation, they're coming in more attached to their authentic selves. So they expect the people around them to be authentic, and it confuses them when we don't even know what that means. Like, who am I? I don't know. So that's where a lot of that sadness and confusion and depression and pain comes from for them. They're looking around like, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they just be their true selves? I don't understand. And they're 100% right. So they talk about the kids being really difficult on their parents. It's like, hey, this is not you. Show me the real you.
Or this is not right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And having the courage to stand up without getting a beating. I love that.
I feel like that's such a big part of the global awakening. I don't know how many people I've talked to, and just sharing personal stories. They're like, well, what was your awakening like? And the answer is, oh man, my kids woke me up.
Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, I don't know, people know what like the Schumann resonance is, but it's just basically the, vibrational rate that the earth is resonating at. And in recent years, I mean, with, more and more people kind of, even adults waking up and going, you know what, I don't know who I am, let me get back to basics, and let me, start taking care of myself, and seeking spiritual growth and connection and universal love. The Schumann resonance has been just off the charts. Like, it's always been, relatively stable, and, kind of maybe goes up just a little blip. But lately, the last couple of years, I mean, they've just had these huge shifts. And it goes to show, like, maybe it is this new generation coming in, or just more people overall waking up. And like we were talking about, with so much adversity happening right now, and that is the time where you do go back and reflect, and it breaks you open, and it's an opportunity to either stay where you are. And none of us, I think, at least all four of us, would agree that, we're not necessarily okay with, the way the world is right now. Or do we start, speaking out and doing it in a positive way, right? And creating communities like this, where people can speak freely in a non-judgmental way. And, the more that you share content like this out, I mean, again, let's take technology and use it, in the most positive way that we can. Somebody had put a comment after our last show, and they said, wow, it is so refreshing to see Facebook used in such a positive way. When we were all talking about, let's just come together and create community, and create change. And I just thought that was the ultimate compliment. I just thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's powerful. It is. And I would say, honestly, that the world is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing right now. All of the volatility, all of the coming together of the pieces and the parts, the coming to a head, the conflict coming to a head, whatever, however you want to describe it. As we say, there are no accidents, there are no coincidences. This is exactly where we're supposed to be, and it's a great time. It's a great year. I, for one, want to say, has it been easy every moment? No. I think it's a fantastic year, and I think that the opportunities will continue to play out. And I'm excited to see what opens up here, what sorts of things we learn, what sorts of things come to the fore as we move through the year and into next. I see very clearly the love, light, the possibility that is opening up in and amongst all of this, the creation of new ways of being that are coming from this, the focus being shifted, and just something I want to call out too, that I just still am floored by is how quickly air cleaned up and weather changed, literally. How quickly the planet started to heal itself. And I've heard a lot of people talk about, Mother Earth is angry and she's flicking us off like a flea. And I don't think that's true. I don't think she's angry. I think she is continuing to lovingly support us and guide us and teach us. And wow, what a lesson that was to see when we all peeled back in some of the largest cities in the world, when we all peeled back and went home, and our energy consumption changed, what we put out there shifted a bit, how quickly animals started coming back into cities, and just like that. And so I think for me, that was more proof of how magical this plane is, how quickly you can shift into anything you choose in any moment. Whatever we all collectively choose, it's all possible, completely, all of it.
And it reminds me of, I think it's called the butterfly effect, where, they've studied like monarch butterflies on one side of the globe flap their wings, and it can shift weather patterns all the way on the other side of the earth, which is just, it blows your mind away. Like, it's hard to even fathom. But to your point, yeah, that's how, you know, people, once they recognize we are globally connected consciously, you know, I mean, everything is energetically connected. I mean, we all came from one particular source, whatever you want to believe. So of course, you know, we have to think before we act, because our actions impact not just ourselves, but, you know, thousands. When you tell somebody something and then they go and tell, you know, 5 people something, and, you know, they've done mathematics and they say, you know, by the time it's done, you know, thousands of people will be affected from one little small sentence. It's amazing. And then, like you guys said, you take that on a, you know, when you start to get into politics and leaders, and, you know, how important it is for, you know, that to be considered.
So careful with your words.
Chris, you're probably the best one to comment on that one.
I had 1,000 comments going through my head, and the download I'm getting from Spirit while we're talking is that this time is almost like a war on faith, and not war on religion, but faith that what we've believed in for generations is true. We're asking to look at everything we've been taught and question it and say, what is right? What do I want to hold on to? What do I want to let go? And that war on faith is what brings in all of those emotions, because it's become the core of who we are, that societal, you know, faith in our culture, our patriotism, our attachment to the American flag. All of these things are being called into question with that emotional attachment. What is your faith? And are you willing to look at it and say, is this right? That's just the download that I'm getting on that one.
I think it's powerful. I really do, and it's resonating with me deeply. And everything that's come up for some time now, honestly, being about faith, and that's an interesting word. It's a powerful word, and it's a word that carries so much with it for a lot of people. And I don't know how you guys feel about that word, what that word means to you. To me, that word is different than trust. To me, that word speaks to being able to step into something that you have no proof for, which I think is the ultimate. It's the ultimate act. It's the ultimate opportunity for growth is what it is. It's the ultimate place. It's where question and searching kind of meet possibility. And being able to act, have an action, do something that will always, in my experience, 100% of the time, always produce a result if you're looking.
Yeah. And how open are we to have our faith discussed, looked at, questioned? I would say the majority of people in the world are not. They are not willing to have their beliefs even discussed. I'm not talking about God at all. Every single belief,
Right.
Every label that they've attached.
I have a plaque next to my bed, and every morning when I roll over and wake up, that's what I look at, and it says, "Let your faith be bigger than your fear," because they're both very, you know, big, abstract, vulnerable places, right? And it's a choice in every minute. You know, that's what human design speaks of, is, you know, once you can find out who you really are, get back to your authentic self, and then find out how to make correct choices with your free will. That's how you stay aligned to your path, right? Instead of getting sidetracked and hijacked by, like you were saying, Kat, I think the news and, you know, just the conditioning and the belief systems of others, even our own parents, you know, I mean, we get hijacked by their beliefs, and they're just doing the best that they can based on, you know, how they were raised and taught. And so that's what got me so excited when I started to look around at the children and the youngsters that are coming in and seeing the world in a whole different way. I thought, wow, this is going to be powerful to witness. Hopefully we will all be able to witness, you know, these huge shifts and tolerance, like you were saying, Chris, what people are willing to put up with and say is okay, and have the strength to call out what is not.
Mm. And you think of so much of faith is born out of fear. You look through history, religion was born as a way to explain things that scared us, the atmospheric changes, death, birth, all these other elements. Society was created because we feared being alone, and the elements and the animals and all these other things. We create rules because we fear anarchy and lawlessness and all these other things. A lot of what we build our lives upon was built out of fear. Now, if we have the time to stop and really look at those foundations, how many of those do we want to keep? Are we willing to tear down the ones that no longer work for us and build something better that's not coming from a place of fear, that's built from love instead of fear?
And it is interesting when you think about fear and faith. I mean, they're both based in the unknown, and they're both based potentially in the future, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point.
What do you mean potentially in the future?
Well, obviously you can have fear in the moment, but usually they say, like, people that have anxiety, fear-based anxiety, it's fear of the future. They're playing out what could potentially happen. Just like faith is really, you can have faith in the moment, but I don't know, for me, when I think of faith, it's in tomorrow. Will tomorrow possibly be better than today? I'm going to have faith that it will be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll be scared tomorrow. The fear is based on, what I can't control.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I'm totally agreeing that fear is wherever your feet aren't, right? Really, almost always. But I think faith can very much be where your feet are.
Oh yeah, it can. I have a little quote right by my computer here, and it says, "Leap and the net will appear." And that is in the moment, right? When you're at any crossroads, you go, do I go into fear or do I go into faith? Like you said, it's just right in the moment.
Yeah.
But, I guess I'm just thinking that's how you have to set your mindset to create change is, what you can do right here, right now, what's in your control, and then to have the faith to go into the future and see it differently maybe than you see it today.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just Groundhog's Day.
It's the emotion that you come at it with too. Is it coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of fear? So if you're making your decisions based on your fear for what could be, what are your decisions going to look like? That's not coming from a chemically stable place, let alone a logical place. If you're coming from a place of love, and all of us are very into the heart math, they talk about the heart having a bigger brain than the brain. This is actually what controls our bodies. So if you're coming at it from a place of heart, your body's already chemically aligned and stable just to make the decision to have faith in something, or to fight for something, or to change something. Fear just sets off all these neuropses. Your fight or flight is going.
That's a great point. Are you here, or are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you here? Head, heart, gut. And if you're here all the time, that is the only place you're ever going to live. Mm-hmm. Fear, doubt, confusion, uncertainty, all the different ways that can be expressed, because that's all this is for, right? That's what I think that's worth talking about. I think that's a great subject, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what contributes so much to what we've got going on right now too, because our society has really put the focus entirely in one place. It's all head. Mm-hmm. It's all learning. It's all degrees. It's all job titles. It's all. It isn't the deep wisdom and knowledge that's accessible and available to all of us from our other centers, guidance centers. This is not a guidance center. This is a keep you from dying center. Really, is all it is. Keep you safe while you're on this plane. I think isn't it 75%, or it's some large percentage of what your brain retains is negative information, and that's an accident to keep you safe, right? And if that's the place from which you're functioning, even just primarily, much less only, you're going to struggle. And so many of us have lost touch with what our heart space is. and how to access it and what it feels like. I think, also so many people rely on science to tell them what is and what isn't. And so science is catching up in some ways with what we're talking about right now, with the verification that the gut brain exists, right? But there's a heart brain as well. There's a heart communication center, a gut communication center, and then there's this thing. And this should be not the primary.
The brain is very much it's your hard drive. It just stores data. It cannot anticipate anything. All it can do is play stuff over on a loop over and over and over. And what sticks out the most? Anything with an emotional attachment. So trauma, pain, depression, things that have stuck in our memories because they were so momentous. And the hard drive is just holding on to that and replaying it. Be like, oh, don't let this happen again. Don't let this happen again.
Yeah.
So if that is your only source of information, wow. That's just wow. You're beyond blinded.
Life, yeah. And I know that firsthand, just dealing with all the death that I've dealt with, and really, really struggling right now with, I lost my son in January. And, I was just having a conversation with my husband yesterday. He's struggling even more than me. And, he's just talking about all the emotions, and it's hard for men too, to deal with the emotions they've been taught not to. And he's living from this, like you said, repetitive place up in his head. And I was telling him, I mean, the only way out is through. You have got to drop into your body. You've got to feel the pain, feel the trauma, feel the emotion for your body to process that, and for you to ever have a chance to move forward. If you don't feel it, you're never going to move past it, with anything. That's just one example. So absolutely. Your mind's a great fact keeper, and it can be a great outer authority, for others, but never really truly for yourself.
And to your point, Katie, the word that keeps popping into my awareness for the last several weeks is expression. Literally express. When we don't drop into our bodies and feel and express, we don't express. That word literally means to push through, to let go of, to move out. And when we're not in our bodies feeling and expressing, what ends up happening is everything just gets lodged.
And then you repeat the pattern, because that's what you show your children and other people. And then that's what they repeat, right? And it just, nothing changes for generations, And I think that's why things are starting to shift, because like we were saying with children of today is, people are slowly starting to know that it's okay to feel and to express, and, to have the freedom of speech. And, it's just, it takes, to affect the earth or the, US or whatever country we're talking about, with that many people. I mean, it just takes a while to shift on that level, but it's really cool for all of us to each have our own lives and each have noticed that there is a shift happening. Let's look at what's going right. And I just wanted to mention, because Chris, I thought your point was excellent. I don't know if anybody on here has heard of the Course in Miracles. It's a massive compilation. It goes very, very deep, but it's a current day channeling from that a psychiatrist had channeled and downloaded from Jesus. That's kind of like a modern day, secondary, Bible. And the Course in Miracles, I mean, the crux of it is a miracle is a shift in perspective from fear to love. Mm-hmm. And we think of miracles as, these angels coming down and, doing these amazing things. And that does happen. But we are all capable of a miracle in any given moment. And then, like you said, I thought that was a perfect visual, to just drop the fear is in the head, the love is in the heart. And in any given moment, it's you shift how you're seeing it, right? Shift how you're seeing the situation. Even in death, there can be love,
And if somebody isn't sure how to do that, it's just intention, right? It's just literally, I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with my head and quite literally told it, I don't need you right now. Thank you for your service. We're going elsewhere right now, and we'll drop out of here and into here.
Mm.
It's
That's the first step in the chemical in alchemy, is to quiet the brain, because your ego is constantly talking to you and we mistake that for our real selves. And that first step is to visualize your brain as something that you can quiet. And for me, I always visualize this like puppy, and it's just bouncing around. It's like, hey, me. I'm like, no, shh, I'll pay attention to you later. I'll get back to you later. Right now, I need to be here. And that's such an amazing point. And all of this reminds me that we need to start a movement to get rid of the negative connotation on the word feeling. Why is feeling a bad thing? How did that become such a negative? Oh, only women feel. Men don't feel anything. It's even makes me clench.
yeah, you're right. We've got to change that, because not only are those feelings absolutely necessary in every way here, but it's also when we're up here, we think of thinking, right? And a lot of the information that comes through in this space is feeling. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to clarify too. I think a lot of people think that when they receive information, it's going to be like a lightning bolt or a very clear voice that comes through that you can hear just the way we're hearing each other here. And that just isn't always true. Does it happen? Yeah. But that isn't always true. It's the feeling, it's the knowing, it's the, the draw toward, it's all those things. It's all the things that show up in our daily lives to get our attention too, and the way we feel about them. I mean, God, how could you navigate this plane without feelings? They're at least as important as what goes on here.
Yeah. We should start a feeling movement. Just tell me how you're feeling every day. I don't care what you're thinking. I really don't. Not a penny for your thoughts. I don't care. Keep them. Like a quarter for your feelings.
Let's just put it out there. We love for anybody watching to always feel like they can post, release whatever they need to do, on our Facebook page, Muses, because sometimes, you just want a safe space to just come on and share something, that you're in a vulnerable space in. So you're right. The more that we get comfortable doing that, the freer we are. To live in a place of freedom. Stephanie, you're pretty good at that.
I am. I do get pretty good about telling everybody what I'm feeling. Usually all these ladies are laughing because they know how true it is.
It's awesome.
Give us some advice. Like, what would you, how did you get to that place of just that free spirit, that openness, that vulnerability?
You know what? It is vulnerability. And I find it funny, Katie, that you would say, how do I get to that place? Because I feel like I'm still not there.
Well, you're probably further along than like a lot of people.
For sure.
A lot of it is just the experience of expression, true self-expression. And when it happens and you're in a safe container with people who love and appreciate you, that's important to have that experience. But also with that foundation, the ability to step out of that safe container and still fully express yourself and know how you feel and know that you're safe and know that no one else can come take your good feeling from you. How would they do that? Unless you were leading from up here, right? Stepping into every situation with your ego and your mind aflare. Well, people can hand you your feelings at that point and tell you what they're going to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
True self-expression.
The love and the fear side of it, like, as you guys have been talking about that, and maybe you noticed I'm just kind of sitting here soaking it all up, like, okay, where the spirit just bringing through so many things. But backing up to what Kat said, and it's been some little time ago, but talking about how everything's coming to a head and making that comment just brought me a download about Earth, Gaia, and her for all intensive purposes, I pictured this Herxheimer reaction. And I don't know how many of you know what the Herxheimer reaction is, but it's a healing reaction. When you're cleansing and detoxifying the body with things that are good for the body, and you're moving out anything, it could be virus, bacteria, toxin, whatever it is. We know these things live in us and have to be in balance in us, but some of them don't belong or are too plentiful and they need to go. They have to be flushed out of the body. And so on a personal, individual level, when you're doing that work, you're putting good into the body so that the body can relax and do its healing work, because it always wants to find homeostasis. And when Kat said what she said about everything on our planet coming to a head right now, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it just being in or aligned with the timeline of global expansion and all of it happening right now, just as it's supposed to, brought me that thought of like, okay, this is Mother Earth's Herxheimer reaction, because we are one with her and the collective mind is one with her, and everything is shifting and we're healing ourselves and the planet at the same time. It has to come to a head.
Yeah, and
Herxheimer, guys, yeah, it's like Earth's Herxheimer reaction. It's purging the toxins and the
like
grossness and the hate and the fear and the all of this. And I got to thinking, like, we have to be putting in the good. We're talking about these things that are tough, and the way that we're shifting the collective mind and these thought constructs that are really difficult, and situations in life in the 3D that are really difficult, and the hate and the fear and the program and, and all that stuff. But on the back end of that, we've got all of this love. We've got all of this nurturing. And if all of us, if the collective as a whole wasn't reaching that point where we were able to drop back into the heart space and operate from that different plane, and be in that different energy, that different dimension, with that different data that's available to us, and start to push that Herxheimer reaction on Earth, force out the ugly and the bad through the rest of the collective, and watch everything come to a head. We've been doing that. We've all been doing that. The collective as a whole has been doing that. And then it got me to thinking, okay, and I was asking the question of myself, like, what is it? What are we putting in? We're putting good in and flushing out the bad on a cosmic level, just like a human being, an individual human would do with their own body, putting in life force energy and raw foods and healing the body, forcing out anything that doesn't belong there, that's no longer needed, releasing the stagnant, releasing the tension, releasing all of the negative. It's what happens on the microcosm. And then we jump to the macrocosm and go, crap, you're right. It's coming to a head. Things are being forced out. We're reconciling things. And that just means we've been feeding it love. We have to have. Mm-hmm. Because how do we get there? And then I started asking the question, like, what came first? Right? I start having this chicken or the egg conversation with myself and going, okay, is global expansion happening because we've dropped down into that place of love as a collective and started that ball rolling and started that process of flushing out what no longer serves us? Or are we dropping down into that place of love to deal with what came first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
And I don't know that you're going to find a what came first, because I think it's exactly what you said. I think it's those two things, but I also think it's the timeline that doesn't exist, right? But that does. Yeah. It's the timeline. It's the divine timing for everything to be all coming together. That's I feel that strongly. It's just going to grow. It is. I feel like I already know what the outcome is. I mean, it's always light, right? Light always wins. There's no contest. No contest.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you listen to Cryon's channels. He talked about at 2012, that was really it wasn't a deadline for the end of the world, but it was almost like a timetable where we were measuring out how much light and love the world had. And if it reached a certain position, it would spill over, and then new creation was possible. New light, the evolution, the ascension was possible. And we did, as humans, we came together with enough light and growth that we were able to accomplish that timeline and the measurement that we needed. So now it's just exponentially growing and growing and growing. And 100% Gaia's got to grow with us. She's a soul just like we are. She came down to do this massive sacred mission of allowing us to play out these experiences on her body. Her pushing out all those toxins and ascending, it's such a gift. It's such a gift that she's giving us. So thank God she's doing it with us. We need to go there together.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100%.
Yeah.
I have a hard time even separating us from her most
Yeah.
of the time. When I think of humanity, every being on the planet, and we start talking about the Schumann resonance, and now we're talking about Gaia's heartbeat, you know what I mean? It's like, how do we separate ourselves from her when we're so connected and in resonance? We might be separate pieces, but we're all part of the whole. We're all part of the same.
Yeah, and let's add to that, and maybe you meant this, I don't know, but let's add to that all the other beings that are here too in different bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not just humanity and Gaia, right?
Yeah, I said all the beings. I was even looking at you when I did it. No. All the beings, Kat, all the beings. The bees, the bugs, the dogs, the cats, the cows, the birds. Yeah.
Every single insect, every single, yeah.
Every vibrational piece of our is. Yeah.
I think science is catching up to that connection. They just don't realize that's what they're discovering. Like Dr. Emoto's work with the water, showing that it holds memory and holds light and is affected by love. If you think about that, not just, we always talk about the percentage of our body that's water. Think about the percentage of the planet that's water. So if you're infusing love into the water that's flowing through every particle of the earth, every particle of the air, just think of what that does. It has to change. Science has already proven that the water can be changed through love. Well, what does that mean for Earth?
And for us.
Yes, that's just huge.
For the whole of creation, right?
I just want to walk their hand to get to that last step. They're like, we don't know why it does this. I know why it does that.
Come on, over here.
Just work with me. Take that next step. What does that mean?
I had a naturopath that I used to see all the time, and I had told her I was going on a cruise and I was going to be hitting, like, I don't know, 5 different islands or, places. And she got all excited. I was just having a conversation with her and she's like, oh, this is perfect. And I guess she had created, just with natural, herbs, essences, whatever, these little kind of, I don't know, love bombs, if you will. And so she gave me these tiny little pellets and she had me drop them at specific, like in the ocean, at specific points, because that was the exact, intention behind that like one little pellet would, kind of affect this amount of water, which would affect, and I had so much fun doing it. I felt like some kind of like adventurer, that was saving the planet. But yeah, if we all just had that intention, and just, have that beauty and drop into the heart space. I mean, it's like you said, how can light not win? It's just organic. It's naturally going to happen.
And rely on our experiences, our adventures in the world on this plane, and the information that we receive, rather than waiting for some outside source to verify something that is just absolutely insufficient.
Mm-hmm. I still do that with the crystals, Katie. Whenever I travel, I've got little bags of quartz and I'll take a picture of it. I'll just do a quick little blessing and then just throw it in whatever body of water I'm near. Everywhere I've traveled.
See, and if you and I have both done it, then there's got to be other people out there that are doing something similar. Versus yesterday when I went for a walk down by, we've got a huge lake in Seattle, Lake Washington, and we went to walk down the dock, and my husband goes, "Is that a lawn chair at the bottom?" Let's talk love instead of lawn chairs. In the water.
There's a lot of good meme conversations going on here. I'm like seeing these memes, lawn chairs and our crystals instead of lawn chairs.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, this is probably a great way to wrap up the show today on a happy, light note. It is 12 o'clock. Boy, that went by quick. That was an interesting topic. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did. We so appreciate you tuning in and sharing this out. We were just blown away by how many people were able to watch the show last week. And we know that that's all because of you. And so we hope that you continue to do that and share this positive message out. Be sure to check us out. If you need to catch the replay, you can catch it on our Facebook group page, Muses. And then we also have it on YouTube and Instagram under Muses of Light. And leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear how you're activating your own inner muse. And if you have ideas for topics, things you want us to cover, we'd love to hear that too. But thank you, ladies, for sharing this hour with me, and thank all of you viewers at home watching. And don't forget to tune in to us next Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Eastern. There you go. Make it a beautiful day, everybody. Let's just keep this going forward, okay? We'll see you next week. Bye.